The pick is in.
The 55th pick, the Los Angeles Chargers select Tre Harris, wide receiver out of Ole Miss. Let's bring in Locked On Chargers host Daniel Wade. And you said, Daniel, you like the pick. Why so?
I love the pick. The Chargers, after taking a running back in round one and kind of going a luxury direction, right? Not a huge positional value there. They needed to add firepower to Justin Herbert's pass catching arsenal. And that's exactly what this is. And not only that, teacher, but also someone to pair with Ladd McConkey, right? Ladd McConkey so great in the slot last year in the second round. Joe Ortiz 1-for-1 already taking wide receivers in the second round, which makes me like this pick even a little bit more. But this is someone that has the big physical outside profile that you want with someone like a Ladd McConkey. Let Ladd McConkey control the middle of the field and do what he does. Don't take anyone that's going to eat into those snaps where he already produced at such a high level. Find someone that can win one-on-one matchups on the outside. And after that last game the Chargers had last year, Tenitro, that box score was hilarious. It was Ladd McConkey 12 for 197, yes, and then everybody else. Nobody else had more than 2 catches for 18 yards in that game. This gives the Chargers somebody legitimate on the outside, a big-time playmaker that averaged over 17 yards per catch over the last 2 seasons, and someone that just put up a 1,000-yard season in 8 games in the SEC, the cream of the crop of college football. So I love this pick. The Chargers have other needs. They needed to add firepower, and they get it with Tre Harris.
Indeed. And granted, when the Chargers took on the Atlanta Falcons, they did win that game, but literally the game was, and it's the same guy. They're throwing to that guy again, that guy. And so, yeah, you're absolutely right. Just to give some depth and some breadth to what Justin Herbert is going to be able to do, whom he's able to throw to, just to make sure that that offense, that passing game is not one-dimensional. You got to like what a guy like Tre Harris brings to the table. And, Daniel, I've seen people compare him to Rashee Rice. What do you think about the comps to Rashee?
I think it's right in the fact that he does bring some of that yards after the catch ability. He's a big dude. If you give him a runway to get to full speed, he might not have the elusiveness. He is more of a kind of straight line explosive, but if you give him a runway, he's going to be really hard to bring down at his size. At 6'2", over 200 pounds, he's not like Ladd McConkey or some of these other smaller receivers that have been in vogue. This is a dude that guys in the secondary are not going to want to tackle. So I think for someone like him who had big time production and maybe felt because of his 40 time running a mid 4.5s, I watched the dude. He was burning corners in the SEC on the outside with deep balls. So if you can do that, I'm going to care about that more than maybe what the numbers end up saying. The tape comes first and then the testing comes after that. This is an extremely good athlete that can make it work after the catch. You can throw it to him and he has over a 50% contested catch rate, a big receiver that plays like a big receiver. And I think with what they already have in Quentin Johnson, who's more of a yak guy himself, and Ladd McConkey, who's operating out of the slot and is a big time separator, this guy fits really well with what the Chargers have already.
Yeah, and when you look at what he brings to the table as far as what Greg Roman has, obviously a lot to work with from day one, but what are some of the things you want to see, and I'm sure Greg Roman wants to see in terms of development that have him ready to contribute, have Tre ready to contribute day one?
It's a great question, and I think there's one thing that pops up to me right away. I mean, there will be a diversification of the route tree. Playing in the Ole Miss offense isn't going to give you a full scope of what a receiver's capabilities are, at least as a route runner. This is a dude that has a physical profile of someone who can be an impact dominant run blocker. When you're talking about Greg Roman, that's something that if they didn't believe he had that in him, because you didn't see it a lot in college, especially with him playing outside and being in that Ole Miss offense, if they didn't think he could have that in him, I don't think they take him there. But I think what they see in the key part of development for him will be, hey, you're bigger than these dudes, right? Go get these guys, go put them into the ground, find that mean streak and be an impact blocker for a team who just took on Marion Hampton in the first round and wants to run the football a lot. But as far as the Greg Roman offense, it's really built on running the football, play action, deep shots down the field. Tre Harris has all of those things, but if the run blocking can come along with that, he really is tailor-made for what this offense is.
Yeah, I do think we're definitely going to see not just an improvement in this offense year two, but I think that, and just, looking at it from Jim Harbaugh's perspective when I'm referencing year two, but I think we're going to see something that's pretty incremental and pretty impressive from this Chargers offense. And I've seen the likes of what Ladd McConkey can do in the second year in offense. So yeah, Daniel, You're going to have a lot of fun covering these guys this coming season. Appreciate the time. For continuing coverage of the Chargers, subscribe to Locked On Chargers wherever you get your podcasts. And for more on Tre Harris, let's hear from Locked On SEC host Chris Gordy, who spent a lot of time covering Tre up close.
Tre Harris is perhaps the most underrated wide receiver in this year's draft. What's up, everybody? Chris Gordy here from Locked On SEC. Only 2 wide receivers in the SEC last season eclipsed that 1,000-yard receiving mark. It was Andrew Armstrong in Arkansas and Tre Harris at Ole Miss. But what's most impressive, Tre Harris did it playing in only 8 games last season. Dealt with a groin injury that he battled through, but this is a guy who was a former 2-star recruit, spent his first 3 seasons at Louisiana Tech, and really emerged the last 2 seasons at Ole Miss as one of the best receivers in the SEC. Recorded 5 100-yard receiving games this past year. He's projected as a boundary receiver at the next level. Scouts think he's a guy that can really excel perhaps on 3rd downs and in the red zone. He's got sure hands. And I even saw a few scouts think his comp at the next level is former Saints wide receiver Michael Thomas. A really good pickup in this draft, wide receiver Tre Harris. For more on the SEC, remember to subscribe to Locked On SEC wherever you get your podcast.